Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Oh, okay. So this one's called Fierce Females and Dragon. Is that the title of the book?
No.
Or is that just no? Okay. The image is of four females in silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
They're obviously friends because there's that. They're in silhouette, so you can't see their face. You don't see, but the sort of the stances are all action stances, and they're in the foreground. And in the background is, this image is a little bit pixelated, so hopefully I can get a slightly better quality one.
Sure.
But in the background is this illustration of a very gothic-looking castle with a dragon flying behind and around with kind of like this afternoon light or morning light or something. Cloud cover, very dramatic mountainscape. It looks like Wales in my non-Wales accent, but so do tell.
So the background is actually part of the cover for book 2 of my series.
Nice.
We did have those silhouettes in there at first, but it just didn't have the same depth as kind of the whole background.
Mm-hmm.
So I just asked for that special image with the four females kind of in the front because I really like kind of what it evokes when you look at it. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is going to be a
Yeah.
cool adventure, And I liked having the different action poses. So when we are working on the covers with my publisher, the cover artist, he asks different questions. What's the feeling you want to get? What are some of your characters like? What colors or what elements do you want in there? And I was definitely like, I want a dragon because there's a dragon in book 2 that you come to meet. So
right.
I just really like the aesthetic of this because it really portrays what I want to get across. That cusp of an adventure, these friends together ready to make that first step. And I find the image pretty exciting. I like it. I really enjoy it. And like I said, that's cover for book 2. So
yeah, what's great also is that do you ever run into a kind of a snobbery or kind of a bias against, because fantasy has a certain, it has a certain aesthetic position, has a certain tradition, all this stuff, and you don't have to love everything, and some people just really don't like fantasy. But how do you talk about how going into this kind of part of the bookstore or the library where you're writing fantasy, which is traditionally not filled with strong female characters, and these females look like they're young. They look like they're in their teens to 20s, right? So it's not a very cliched association. So talk about, like, you have this impulse in your body, like, oh, I want to write this book. This is the feeling I want to put out there. What were the sort of feelings or people or situations where you've run into where people have said, oh, wait a second, what is this?
I've been pretty blessed with my covers. My second and third cover have definitely really been amazing. My first cover is really nice, but I don't think it clearly defines what's going to happen in the book. It kind of has those elements, but I think book 2 and book 3, their covers really kind of tell what you're going to get in the story. They kind of evoke that sense of fantasy. And I was recently at a used bookstore. There was this person who was pitching some of the books. She's like, oh, well, here's our fantasy book. And I was like, well, what are the female characters like? I mean, that's my first question is, I want to have those interesting characters. And so, I mean, let's be very honest. We do judge books by their covers. I love pretty book covers. We all love pretty book covers. You see it all over Book Talk.
We get engaged visually.
Yes. You're like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. I want to know what's going on. Basically, that's what I want to get across is I want someone to see my book cover and be like, I want to know what's happening in that book.
Yeah.
There is a castle. There is a dragon. Let's go there. So I haven't had so much the negative kind of response yet. I've gone to a lot of kind of local places, and most people are very interested in talking about the writing process. Oh,
Yeah.
you're from here. That's great. How did you get into writing? How did you get this
Right.
published? Things like that. So I've had a lot of positive feedback with it. And I really do love pretty covers, and I was so happy
Right.
when I saw these covers. I was like, "Oh, yes. That's what I want to put out in front of me is these are beautiful covers."
So what is the name of the trilogy?
So it's the Awakenings trilogy. The first book is Descendants of Avalon. The second book is The Lost Daughters of Avalon.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third is Destiny of Avalon.
Got it.
So it's just kind of this building series of these teenage friends who stumble in to this fantasy world. They make this wish in an old looking wishing well. And it ends up tipping the balance of power in this land where these coins fall. There is this evil wizard who's collecting them,
Mm-hmm.
using people's wishes, their hopes and dreams to reforge Excalibur so he can cut his
Mm-hmm.
bonds from this world, escape, and try and take over the world again. He wants his power back, but he
Right.
is trapped in this castle and he can't cut himself free yet. He wants to cut his soul free from this world. So they
Mm.
have to go and find their wishes to keep them safe from this wizard who wants to use them for his own personal gain and his own power.
Right.
So they are all of a sudden thrust into this world.
Yeah, like themes that are very much about life in Minnesota, from what I hear.
Well, that's an interesting take. No, I just.
I'm just kidding. So it's always important to me. It's interesting to know who is the person. So what is the environment that you grew up in as a kid who gravitated to this part of storytelling?
So when I was younger, kind of preschool, early elementary school, we lived up. So I live right now in southern Minnesota. We're kind of plains. It's not super exciting, but in northern Minnesota, they have all these beautiful trees. They have these white
Okay.
birch trees. We used to live in, well, it's a trailer. Let's be honest. It was trailer.
Okay.
We lived, but it
Sure.
was in the middle of all of these trees in this forest kind of area, and I loved it. We could walk outside, we could pick strawberries or raspberries, and there's just this sense of like, what's beyond the tree line? Like, what could be hidden there? Are there
Right.
fairies?
Right.
Are there monsters? I mean, sometimes there were bears, and we had to stay inside because there was a bear outside. But
Well.
like,
Well, okay, so my wife is from British Columbia,
hmm
like a few hours away from Vancouver. And that's like the big mountains, big trees. Everything's huge, right? It's like
yeah,
you've got the ocean with the orcas, and you've got the seals, and you've got the bears, and you've got the cougars, and you've got the owls killing cats. All like it's full on, right? And also the trees there are enormous. You'll have
hmm
trees that are like 150 feet tall or something. And it's just incredible forest. And when you describe growing up in this place where the woods are there, and there's this kind of, as a child or as a kid or whatever, even growing up, there's a kind of magical connection of what is out there. Like for in a place like British Columbia, it's very easy to sort of imagine these like fairies or this weird animated life beyond just humans, right?
yeah.
So that was something that awakened in your head. Why does that manifest though in this idea of, well, I need to get the story out because like essentially writing is a very lonely process. But I guess when you're in a group, you guys kind of feed off each other's energy.
hmm
I don't know Minnesota at all, but I picture open space, then lots of snow, and that quiet of when the snow just tamps out sound.
hmm
So, how does that scene fit into your process as a writer?
I kind of wanted to evoke like you'd mentioned, that sense of wonder when you look out, like with British Columbia, that sounds like amazing. Like you're surrounded by these giant mythical, like elven trees or something, you know. I wanted to evoke kind of that sense of fantasy before we actually stepped into the fantasy world. And
Hmm.
it's just always captured this comfort for me, and I've just always loved going up there. And I think it's just those childhood impressions that really started me on this road to fantasy and loving reading science fiction and fantasy, because I love that sense of possibility, that
Yeah.
anything can be out there. Like with space, it's infinite. What's
Yeah.
out there? I can't imagine we
Yeah.
are the only planet with sentient
Sure.
beings on it, because space goes on forever. And just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
in the woods, it's such a beautiful quiet, like you said, that the snow does kind of dampen things. Yes, everyone goes inside, everything's quiet because it's freezing
Hmm.
cold. And yeah, you just get that sense of peace and also curiosity. So that's what's
Okay.
always kind of stuck in my head. And yeah, that's why I started it up in northern Minnesota instead of where I live now in the southern area, because I
Mm.
just love the environment. So
Are the beaches much nicer in the South?
no, I mean,
You should see your face. You're like, okay, I'm talking to an idiot.
no, I'm just trying to think, because I'm like, most of ours are man-made, so they're
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah. No, I got it.
nearly
I
as
got
cool
it.
as some of the
I
ones
like I
up
like
north.
pretending that I'm totally ignorant, so it's good.
We do have so many lakes, but not down here.
Yeah, of course, of course. Okay, well, you want to move on to the next photo?
Sure.
So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.